This is Jacob Rees Mogg, and this is what he had to say about the issues of Grenfell.
The tragedy came about because of the cladding, leading to the fire racing up the building.
And frankly, it feels that Mogg has learnt little from the lessons of Grenfell. Since the Great Fire of London in 1666, the use of combustible walls and roofs have been banned in England, yet fires still happen, even in 2019 at the Cube in Bolton. And the reason is, we have inadequate regulation. Yet Mogg, an MP, in a recent interview stated that he wants less regulation.
Others are taking on the government, demanding change. Karim Muthili lost his uncle in the fire.
Everything has changed, yet nothing has changed, for us at least. So many things have been sort of brought to light in terms of what we see now and what we've learned about policies and building regulations, etc. So I guess that's something that's changed, is our new known knowledge. But what has actually happened to make sure this never happens again? Not a lot.
We will come to what Mogg has said recently. In 2010, building regulations stated that
the external walls of the building shall adequately resist the spread of fire over the walls and from one building to another, having regard to the height, use and position of the building.
And in 2006, the UK government's fire safety document guidance allowed the use of combustible products on the outside of walls of tall buildings. It required that these products either met the criteria, or in the absence of test results, that a fire consultant undertake what is known as a desktop study to determine whether they would be likely to meet the criteria. That's right, you can Google it. The Grenfell inquiry revealed gaping holes in the procedures for ensuring building fire safety, from product manufacturers, test laboratories, third-party certifiers, builders, architects, and even regulators. So bearing that all in mind, as well as what Mogg said, which I'll play at the end, this is what he had to say about planning and it being led by a free market.
The planning issue is one that has been holding back the growth of this country for some time.
So that planning would include the insulation at Grenfell. Some insulation products such as glass wool and stone wool are non-combustible and are safe in a fire when enclosed in solid masonry. However, this is more expensive, and what the bottom line is, for a free market, for a business, making money.
We have a socialist planning system.
We do, and we'll be talking about that later on because I'm going to be comparing it to what you see in Austria. But we also have a socialist healthcare system, but is he going to start attacking that for being socialist? Some things just aren't about money.
Based on a late 1940s Planning Act, which thinks that central government can predict and plan the amount of building that we need. And we actually know from history that these centrally directed targets don't work, they don't provide the housing that people need. Government is not omniscient in that sense. It doesn't actually know what is going to be needed, whereas the market can provide.
Is it just me, or does he seem to be preaching the love of the economy, of the free market? It seems like some sort of religious sermon.
We have mocked our economy, and now the economy has cast its vengeance upon us all.
And I thought for some time we need to move to a more market-based planning system.
You mean like the one that was used as the basis for allowing fire safety regulations to be downgraded, even though from 1666 we're fully aware that there was a great fire and that you're not meant to put combustible items on a building. But of course, the market knows that. The market is all about protecting people. It's not about that bottom line of making money.
We need to free up the planning laws, and I think voters are ahead of politicians in this. I think they are ready for planning reform because they want their children and their grandchildren to be able to buy properties, which they can't at the moment.
Part of the reason there is a problem is if you build too many houses, you'll start to see a devaluation in properties. For example, would diamonds have any value if they were scattered across the country? Every street, every park, every river, everywhere you go? The answer is no. The other economic problem with overproduction is mortgages. Imagine you buy a house worth $400,000, there's an overproduction of homes. What would happen if the building in 5 years is now worth $300,000, but you still have to pay off the loan of $400,000? You would have economic turmoil. Yet this is something coming around the corner, and I'll discuss towards the end of the video.
And yet at least 2 times in the last decade, the government has attempted planning reform, first under Nick Bowles, under the coalition, and secondly under Robert Jenrick in the first Johnson ministry.
Nick Bowles did a really good job as planning minister. He was very good at making the case for what needed to be done, and he used central government's powers effectively.
Did he? Have a listen to this.
How many council houses did you build last year?
Well, we built a significant number, and what I do know...
What's that number?
I don't have the exact number, Andrew,
Okay,
but
I do.
we built more than the last Labour government.
Yeah, but the last Labour government hardly built any.
During its entire period in office.
You built 2,640 local authority homes, even though there's a waiting list of about 1 million. 2,640. The year before, you built 1,750. I mean, it's derisory, isn't it?
And here's more.
Built 244,000 homes last year. That was the highest level of house building for 30 years. But this is important.
No, hold on. You didn't build 240,000 new homes. What you did was to create net additional dwellings of 240,000, which involves new building, yes, but also conversion of existing property stock to residential use.
And then finally this.
You say you had a plan. You have a plan. You had a plan in 2014 to build 200,000 new starter homes. That was 5 years ago. How many did you build?
Well, there haven't been as many starter homes as we would have liked,
How many
Andrew.
did you build?
I don't have the exact numbers for you.
Well, it's easy to remember. It's 0. You built none under that plan. 200,000, 0 in 5 years.
The more I listen to them, the more I think to myself, they're lazy. They don't want to do any work. They're like posh hippies, but more interested in money than love and freedom.
Here, burnt-out yuppies may come and go, but smoked salmon and bubbly goes on forever.
Now, as a New Year's resolution, I'm not going to try and just be doom and gloom. I'm going to show you something quite promising at the end of this video, something that might surprise you quite a bit.
And not only that, the quality and style is simply out of this world.
So is this what you think of when you think of council housing?
There has been a rebellion from your colleagues over what they see to be a more sort of liberalising instinct for planning. Is it not that your colleagues in particular, as well as the Lib Dems and some in the Labour Party as well, are fundamentally against a more liberal system of planning?
The public don't want a liberalised system, they want a decent council system, and I promise I am going to go into that. But before that, let's just have a listen to what he uses as a justification.
I actually think the electorate is ahead of the politicians, that's what I was saying. And that there are politicians who, they get 300 emails from 38 Degrees and they think this represents the views of the nation. It doesn't. It represents the views of a small number. There's the comment, Edmund Burke's comment about the crickets in the field making a frightful noise whilst the stately oxen standing in the field are being ignored. And I think there's a lot of politics that listens to the crickets and ignores the stately oxen.
Mogg has literally just ripped a direct line from Richard Nixon. The silent majority.
The great silent majority of my fellow Americans, I ask for your support.
I cannot believe he's just taken that from Nixon, and there's so many parallels with the Tory party and Richard Nixon's Republican Party. For a start off, there's Partygate versus Watergate. There is also the silent majority, but on top of that, there's also the fact the Vietnam War under Nixon is as hated as Brexit is right now.
So is this what you think of when you think of council housing?
This is Alt Erler and a Channel 4 production showing what it's like to have proper council housing with a government that's not lazy.
Look at that. They've even got an indoor swimming pool as well.
They have nurseries, schools and tennis courts all conveniently on site.
This is about long-term thinking.
With 10,000 residents, Alt Erler has the highest density living in Vienna. Monica pays the equivalent of £600 a month rent for her flat.
So as you can see, I've brought up council housing. It's led by the government and they do a fantastic job in Vienna. Could you imagine getting something like this in London for that price? Chances are no, it's never going to happen unless you're on the far outskirts.
Back in Harlow, temporary accommodation can give you a quarter of the size for almost the same rent. as her dad Heinz lives in the block next door.
How long have you lived here?
40 years.
40 years?
40 years.
Amazing.
Yes.
Why is this place so special?
Because we have everything here. Everything we need.
We have 15 physicians, doctors. We have all the shops.
Groceries, drugstores.
For schools.
For schools.
And you have your own
everything.
TV channel?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So if there's any pottery classes tonight, we send it and we inform the people, okay, tonight is pottery class.
That's so cool.
Unlike the UK, Austria never stopped with its social housing programs. They've got a higher rate of tax, but boy do they have a better standard of living. And this is what Rees Mogg doesn't think the government can do. This is the future. This is a 3D printer for homes. It takes an hour to set up, and within a week you can have a 2-story building. You still need support staff, carpenters, plumbers, and you also need someone watching the device. These particular homes are being printed in Austin, Texas, and these are some shots of the interior of the house, as well as the exterior. With estimates for the building coming in at 100,000, it's clear where the future lies. It's only a matter of time before this is brought over to the UK, and IKEA are already planning to do this. Did Mogg bring any of this up? No. He was more interested in deregulation, and clearly has learned nothing from Grenfell, nor I doubt his comments about the victims of Grenfell.
If you just ignore what you're told and leave, you are so much safer. And I think if either of us were in a fire, whatever the fire brigade said, we would leave the burning building. It just seems the common sense thing to do.
And there you go, folks. Entitlement, probably an element of narcissism within there. I know better than what the fire brigade tell me. And on top of that, if you didn't do it, you lack common sense. The only thing I get from this video, and I obviously only showed a few clips from what he said, is that essentially Mogg and the rest of them, as this picture so eloquently puts it, are lazy. They don't want to do the work. And even if they did, it would damage the economy because they've been so het up about getting the population to buy housing. So unfortunately, despite that cheerfulness that I had at the end, I have to say a big thank you to all of my supporters. It just keeps on growing. If I hit that 10,000 mark, you're going to start to see my face a little bit more on this channel. You can also help out for the price of a coffee by clicking Buy Me a Coffee, link in the description. Or of course, you can just click for free the like button, subscribe button, and notification button. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.